Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I'm feeling a little bit patriotic today because it's got a little bit to do with the theme and topic of today's show. I hope that you are all ready to dive into all of these matters of defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship. And yeah, Rick says, dramatic opening. Rick, I got your text message yesterday and I got distracted because I was taking care of the kids. I do apologize. And yes, the Superman curl is here today, leaning into it. I do it for Nancy and Myra and all of my lovely lady fans. But we are going to talk briefly about the new Superman movie. It's getting ready to come out. As a matter of fact, so today is the 8th. It's going to come out on the 11th. And there's a very disappointing thing about the Superman movie that I'm going to have to tell you. And if they would have just followed my guidance and direction, they would have made $1 billion. And no, it's not by casting me in the role. But we'll get to that in just a moment. So hopefully you are all doing well. It's great to have you with us today on Shields and Arrows. A few things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, obviously, the Superman movie. We're going to talk about Epstein. He killed himself? Is that what he did? Is that what happened? Is that the story? A lot of disappointing news coming out from the DOJ and whatnot. We'll discuss it, and honestly, the truth is we don't know what to believe, and you have every right to not trust the narrative. We're going to talk about Wesley Huff, Wes Huff, as he's come to be known. He's kind of become a prominent. He's a young guy. He is a Christian theologian, apologist. He studies manuscripts. So textual criticism. He is a force for good in some ways, even though I don't agree with his theology. He is a force for good in some ways, and then also in other ways he kind of shoots the preservation of Scripture in the foot to somewhat of a degree, which is kind of shocking to maybe some, because that's really his objective. He's trying to defend the authority of the Bible, and I think that while he does so in some ways, he also undermines the authority of the Bible in others. We'll get to all that. We're also going to talk about a redeeming quality of the SBC. I know that's not a popular thing to say. It's not what you think it is. It's not their doctrine. It's not the Baptist faith and message. It's not the convention as a whole. But it is the disaster relief group that they have, that they organize, that they put together as we're continuing to see, sadly, so many more lives lost and the devastation that's taken place in these Texas floods. So I do want to give brief reference to it here a little bit in the show in order to be fair, and also it'll give me an opportunity to make a little bit of a decent point. And then I've got a little bit of an interesting pitch for you, maybe a little bit of a teaser of a new video series that I'm thinking about doing. And yes, there will be more Defending the Faith videos. It's not like I've forgotten about them. They're here. I've got ideas, trust me. But these need to be done not out of a sense of just got to get the video out. It needs to be done when I feel like it's appropriate, when I have the proper motivation, the drive, and the message that I want to convey, okay? So these are going to be slow. I'm only going to get a couple a year out maybe, but when they're done, hopefully they get the point across, like I think the past ones I have made have done, and maybe they'll continue to do well. So I'll continue to share all of these different interesting ideas with you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this discussion, this topic of Superman. All right, so DC, Warner Brothers, they are going to be releasing a new Superman movie. If you have really been anywhere, you've probably seen it, because they're really advertising quite hard for this movie. They're trying to make sure that it's successful. So you'll see it all over the place. Trying to get this ad out of the way. There you go. So here's from Breitbart. Sadly, here is the headline they have concerning the movie. Superman star David Cornsweet, he plays Superman, swaps the American way motto for truth, justice, and good things. Back in 2024, when they announced they were releasing a new Superman movie, they released a trailer for it. I gave a very simple outline for how to make this a $1 billion movie, okay? And once again, you may be wondering, this is theology, you're a right dividing preacher, why are we wasting time on this? Because this is Shields and Arrows, and we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. And I don't know about you, but a society, a culture that is pro-America and is producing good content, good quality movies that tell a good story, that is to our benefit. What would you prefer to have a Superman movie that is pro-America, pro-traditional values, or would you rather have woke Superman? Which one do you want? Which one's better for our culture? I think it's pretty clear that it actually does help to defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship by having a good Superman movie. And sadly, it doesn't sound like that's what we're going to get. So the article here from Breitbart is going to speak to this matter. The article goes on to say, Corn Sweat, who will be the 12th actor to portray the Man of Steel when the film opens on July 11th, just couldn't bring himself to include the American way in the famed Superman slogan when he spoke to CBS Sunday Morning last weekend. As he spoke about the character he plays, Corn Sweat explained, and so that scene, I think, is the crux of that character that we see, and the reality is that when he doesn't have to be Superman, when he doesn't have to be this calm, reassuring presence to the public, when he doesn't have to symbolize safety and security and truth and justice and all those good things, he still feels those values. So this is the big question. Are we not actually going to have the famous American line? Because if you watch any Superman, especially classic Superman, it is truth, justice, and the American way. That is Superman personified. It is the best that a man can be. He really kind of is a substitute Christ-type figure. I mean, the last only son of Krypton falling from the heavens. He possesses supernatural ability. He is able to do these amazing feats, and he is to point humanity into what is good and just, truth, justice. I seem to recall in Revelation 19 when Christ returns, faithful and true, and he will rule the nations with a rod of iron. Do you get it? Do you get the symbolism there? But Hollywood this is lost on Hollywood. They do not understand that our American folk lore, whatever terminology you want to use, traditions, is heavily Christian, biblically based, and that's what Superman's a product of that. I mean, he's really is the world's first superhero. And so it's so frustrating because all they had to do in the Superman movie, I laid this out quite simply. Follow the comics, all right? Just have a good old Superman versus Lex Luthor or whoever else. Have Superman be masculine, have him be patriotic, and have Lois Lane be feminine. Those three things. That's all you got to do. Easy as that. And they would probably make very close to, if not more than $1 billion. The Man of Steel movie, I think it came out in 2013. That was a Superman movie that came out over a decade ago. It checked a couple of the boxes. Superman was largely masculine. He was generally patriotic. I think he even has the line, truth, justice, and American way. And Lois was fairly feminine. The problem is, when it came to the masculinity, he was not... They tried to do a lot of gray, right? Like, should he reveal his powers and save people, or should he keep it a secret? Because what will that do to the world? That's not Superman. Superman is overtly good, outright, clearly, morally virtuous. I say all of this to get to a point. There was a time in Hollywood when they knew how to write the good guy, okay? They knew how to write the sheriff who stands against the bad guy. He wears the white hat. He always does what's right. He always does what's true. And you don't have to overtly have him praying, reading the Bible, going to church to understand that this is a Christian man standing on Christian values, all right? Even whatever confused doctrine that America's had in times past, the very underlying foundations are still there. It is lost. Hollywood has lost it. They have no moral compass anymore. And it's not like the people that were in Hollywood, even in the 40s and 50s, right, which you may consider the heyday. Some would even go back to the 30s, what have you. It's not as if these men are, the people involved were the greatest in society. They probably were, you know, little heathens in some ways when the cameras weren't rolling. But they at least knew what to portray. They knew how to present traditional values, Christian values, all the like. And so sadly, Hollywood's lost it. And if you don't have a clear moral compass and you do not overtly love, value America, it's going to fall flat on its face. So my expectations, unless there is a major switch and it turns out no, Superman is very patriotic, Superman is very masculine, Lois is very feminine, it's not going to do well because it's not what people want. Deep down, it's not what they want, plain and simple. Our society really is in bad shape when we can't write a good superhero movie. All right, especially Superman. Anybody comments on that concerning Superman before we move on? Or are we just talking about other more important theological matters? Ken says, where is Nancy? That's a great question. Where is Nancy? I haven't seen her lately. Somebody check on her. They're probably out doing stuff. I think a lot of people have a life and they don't have time just to sit around and listen to me rant during the live stream. They'll catch it later and put me on 2x speed like Dr. White normally does. All right, so there's my comments, my thoughts there on the Superman movie. If they want to try to redo it, they certainly can. Let somebody who's a patriotic person direct it, and hey, you know, a lot of people have I'll try to do my best to get the part. They don't have time to sit around and listen. Moving on from there, later and put me on 2x speed. Let's talk about normally does Epstein. Right, so remember him? This guy who had whoops, sorry, you've got audio playing there from the show. I just realized my background screen here for Worshify. All right, moving on to Epstein. You know, he was a guy who had all these connections, rubbed elbows with very important people, had a flight list, and of course was caught in a trafficking scheme, particularly preying upon young underage girls. And he was caught for this. He was put in prison. Very much didn't seem to be suicidal, but, you know, hey, he killed himself, right? Now, there's no video of it, apparently, because the video of his cell wasn't working, and the guards who were keeping close watch on him to make sure he couldn't commit suicide because we wanted him to talk, because we wanted to see, hey, who all was involved in this thing? Who were you working with? Who were you working for? What strings were being pulled? And yet he mysteriously was able to get the resources necessary within his high security cell to kill himself. And then there was the jokes running and going on, which were really tongue-in-cheek because they were kind of true, at least we believe they are true, that he didn't kill himself. I mean, are you convinced? Long story short, there was this supposed Epstein list. The Trump administration even said that when they got in, they would release the Epstein list. Pam Bondi, which I'm no fan of hers, claimed to have access to the files and information, and then they did a big public release, and it turned out to be nothing. We already knew a lot of that. And now, this is coming from CNN, but it actually does seem to be a pretty accurate statement. So, you know, every now and then CNN's actually right about something. Here you go. Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide, and there's no client list, Justice Department says. And that is true. That's the official statement coming out from the Justice Department under the Trump administration. There never was a client list, and Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, two very important figures within the DOJ, have said the same story. So there it is. It was a whole nothing thing. All of you who had suspicions that it was some deep cover-up within the deep state, what have you, Hillary Clinton running into the jail cell, whatever theory you may have, you're wrong, right? Here's the funny thing. This does nothing to put to bed the speculation and theories surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. As a matter of fact, this is throwing gasoline on the fire, okay? 100% throwing gasoline on the fire. This convinces no one. It is very frustrating because in theory, right, the Trump administration's on our side, and they're going to tell us the truth. Michael Knowles made an excellent point, and he's absolutely right. When Kash Patel and Dan Bongino in their interview said that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, they could have been telling the absolute truth, that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself because Hillary Clinton made him. So somebody could have, said, hey, you might want to go ahead and take care of this problem yourself, because if you don't, we will, and it will not be near as pleasant, however pleasant that could possibly be. The point is, what's the truth? Was there a clear client list? Who was Epstein really involved with? Did he actually kill himself? Or when he killed himself, was it because he really wanted to, or did he kind of have his hand forced? You don't know. I don't know. It's not going to do anything to put down the rumors. I continue to say this. This is a continuing theme on Shields and Arrows, and I will continue to do so. Just as the theological institutions, whether it's the seminaries or the major denominations or what have you, just assume that we should trust them and have no right to question them. The State Department, the federal government, what have you, has the same assumption. They believe that we are just obligated to believe them, and they don't understand why we question them. Okay, the seminaries can't understand why we question them. The federal government can't understand why we question them. This is why, okay? You could be telling the complete truth, but you have said so many bogus things to us over and over and over again, and you've had to redact, retract, all of these different things that you've said in times past. COVID is the most obvious example of things that the federal government told us, and then it turned out not to be correct when you had Dr. Fauci up there telling you, don't wear the mask. It's all led to you having zero credit. You got no street credit around here. Okay, we don't believe the words you say. We don't trust you. So if you really wanted us to think that or believe that Epstein did kill himself, you should have told us, no, he absolutely did die by suicide. Because pretty much at this point, whatever the federal government, the institutions, the deep state, what have you, whatever they have to say, I tend to think the opposite, all right? They're going to turn me into a flat earther before it's all said and done, I tell you what. So all of that being said, I don't know. You're going to hear all sorts of speculation. The liberals are going to act like maybe it's a little bit of a victory here, that the Trump administration lied. I think the truth is that if there is a list, it's all the same people, okay? Has Trump really drained the swamp as much as we would like? How many people are still in play in whatever organizations? And you know what? Who knows? Could Trump be involved to some degree? I don't know. It's possible. Elon Musk said so and then redacted or retracted that statement. When it comes to these major political players and rich people rubbing elbows with political people, they're political players as well. You know, set your expectations low, all right, when it comes to politicians. I made the mistake of having my expectations that the Republicans would actually come through for once and pass some pro-gun legislation by removing silencers and short-barreled rifles and shotguns from the NFA, and they didn't do it, and that's my fault for ever expecting them to do anything other than just the bare minimum, which is just constant disappointment. So, you know what? Set your expectation at Trump limiting illegal immigration and maybe strengthening the military. And if that's what Trump accomplishes, then you'll go to sleep not being upset, let down, or disappointed. It's when we have these high expectations that there really is going to be something significant happen with our federal government or politicians that you set yourself up to be let down. So set your expectations low. I actually have heard that recommendation in marriage to some degree. Maybe it kind of helps. The bare expectations are keep your vows, be faithful, and that's about it, right? It's about all you can expect. So moving on from there, we've talked about Superman. We've gotten that out of the way. We have got Epstein stuff taken care of. So now let's move on to Wes Huff. Wes Huff is absolutely probably the most prominent younger theologian Christian figure that we have right now. He is pretty well spoken. A number of you may have heard of him. He's a Canadian, so there's a major mark against him. So that's why he talks all funny. No offense to our Canadian friends, but you do. And we don't talk funny. You talk funny. And with that, here's an article from the Christian Post of Wesley Huff, and I'm going to read some of the article and I'm going to comment, and what it's going to do is it's going to kind of expose parts about Wes Huff that is a positive and parts about Wes Huff that is a negative, all right? So I hope that helps. I have not really talked a whole lot about him on this show. It's kind of been an ongoing thing lately. I feel like finally I've found the proper time to discuss Wes Huff. Vix Turtle, I don't know if I know you. Are you a daily watcher, and do I actually know you? Do I know your name? Have I met you before? If you have, that's great. I just don't remember your YouTube username here. If you are new, then by all means, let us know where you're from, who you are. Be very happy to get to know you, Vix Turtle. But Vix Turtle says Wes Huff doesn't fully believe in the KJV. Saw his video, Why I Don't Recommend the King James Version, a year ago. Yeah, and this is going to lead into the problem. He has drank the critical text Kool-Aid, and so it's going to lead to some problems for him. And so with that, let's go ahead and my other account is Vixterity. Okay, I'm still trying to place you. But anyways, great to have you, Vix Turtle. Great to have you. All right, here we go. So here's the article here with Wes Huff. Wes Huff unpacks Mark of the Beast. Claims number might not be 666. Spooky, right? Let's see what his case here is. This is a picture of him talking to Joe Rogan. If you can talk to Joe Rogan, that is a big deal. That means you're somebody who has a great degree of influence. I want one of these days Dr. White to be able to get on Joe Rogan. Some people have said, me, and I don't think that I'm the best one. I think Dr. White would be the best one to get on Joe Rogan. So moving on. For centuries, the number 666, 666, whatever terms you want to use, has stirred imaginations and inspired fear as the so-called number of the beast. This comes right out of Revelation chapter 13, by the way. This is free. I'm not reading the article, but Revelation 13. But according to Wesley Huff, a Canadian biblical scholar and apologist, the story is a bit more complex. How could it be more complex? In a recent post on X, Huff clarified that while most modern Bibles render Revelation 13:18 as his number is 666, some of the earliest known manuscripts read 616. So here's this article right here, right? Some of the earliest known manuscripts, that kind of does lend credit or credence to the oldest and best. The oldest and best. What are the oldest and best? Well, it's whatever the professors, the experts so-called, say are the oldest and best. Who cares where they come from? Who cares what the majority of texts say? If we find one that we like more, and if we think there's some reason, even though we haven't carbon dated anything, we're just speculating. But yeah, these are the oldest and best because we found them in the dirt. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. This is not the King James Version the way it reads, but anyways. Now, Huff wrote, our oldest fragmentary copy of Revelation that includes this text reads differently. There you go. All right, so there's the key. Wesley says that the oldest fragmentary of Revelation does not say it is 666. It is a different number. The earliest copy, along with Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus, one of the most important ancient witnesses to the book of Revelation, records the number as 616. Okay? Codex Ephraim, and I'm not familiar with this codex. Let's see if we can do a little bit of research on this codex and find out where it came from. Probably going to get some Wikipedia here. Let's see. You gonna let me go to Wikipedia right here or not? Let's see. Sorry, my computer's being funny right now. It's not letting me, it's a conspiracy, folks. Look at this. My computer won't pull it up. Pull up all sorts of other things without trouble. Can't pull up the Codex Ephraimi Rescriptus. That is very amusing to me. I'm gonna try to get this pulled up because I want to see what information it has to say about it. There we go. All right, so this is Wikipedia. The Codex Ephraimi Rescriptus is a manuscript of the Greek Bible written on parchment. It is designated by Siglum C or 04 in the Gregory Allende numbering of New Testament manuscripts. It contains most of the New Testament and some Old Testament books, with sizable portions missing. It is one of the four great uncials. Is it uncials or uncials? I think it's uncials. That being manuscripts originally contained the whole of both the Old and New Testament. Even though it's missing some, we're going to assume, I guess, that it's containing all of it. The manuscript is not intact. Its current condition contains material from every New Testament book except 2 Thessalonians and 2 John. However, only 6 books of the Greek Old Testament are represented. How does it get to be put in there as like of the great uncials, but it doesn't have everything? I don't know. The rules for textual criticism, and maybe I'm missing something, but if it doesn't have all of it, then how does it get to be considered manuscripts that contain the whole? Now, they say originally contain the whole. Maybe they can tell, oh, there were places where paper was torn, and so it should have been there originally. Like, I would like them to explain further. But there's a lot of I think there's a lot of picking and choosing in textual criticism, what you like and what you don't like. Take what you want, throw out what you don't. It is not known whether 2 Thessalonians or 2 John were excluded on purpose or whether no fragment of either epistle happened to survive. See, they don't know. They don't know. The manuscript is a palimpsest, with the pages being washed of their original text. Goodness, folks. We're going to treat this as authority, but the pages are washed of their original text. This is the Codex Vaticanus. Codex Vaticanus is a codex that was written over and rewritten over several times. And yet, it's a great authority because it happens to agree with this Codex Sinaiticus that we all want to bow down to. The pages washed of their original text and reused in the 12th century for the Greek translations of 38 treatises composed by Ephraim the Syrian, from which it gets its name Ephraimi Rescriptus. The lower text of the palimpsest was deciphered by biblical scholar and paleographer Constantine von Tischendorf. Oh my goodness. The lower, it's like, this is going to turn us all into conspiracy theorists. Constantine von Tischendorf, okay, ready? Let's click on his really quick. So here's Constantine von Tischendorf. Constantine von Tischendorf, if you don't know, is the guy behind the Codex Sinaiticus. Tischendorf was a German biblical scholar, German, heavily influenced by Germany was heavily influenced by rationalism. How much did that influence Tischendorf? Makes you wonder. In 1844, he discovered the world's oldest and most complete Bible, dated to around the mid-4th century and called Codex Sinaiticus after St. Catherine's Monastery at Mount Sinai. Tischendorf was just always doing this stuff. Like this one guy, he got the Codex Sinaiticus. What else did he get? The Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus. I mean, goodness, he's just all over the place, finding all these old Bibles long lost, deciphering all these things. Tischendorf was made an honorary doctor by the University of Oxford in March 1865, and by the University of Cambridge on March 9th, 1865, following his discovery. While a student gaining his academic degree in the 1840s, he earned international recognition when he deciphered the Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus, a 5th century Greek manuscript of the New Testament. I'm just saying, Tischendorf was never really questioned in his time. The one guy to really question him was Simonides, and Tischendorf seemed to try to avoid Simonides as much as he could. Quite an amazing thing, isn't it? I have a feeling this will be there'll be a few people have comments here. Anyways, moving on. So the manuscript is a codex written on parchment. Text is written continuously with no division of words, with the punctuation consisting of only a single point, as in codices Alexandrinus and Vaticanus. This codex was, here's one thing, this codex was so important. Codex Ephraemis Rescriptus. It was so important that in the 12th century, in the 12th century, they washed off the original text and then they wrote over it. It was reused in the 12th century for the Greek translations of 38 treatises composed by Ephraim the Syrian. That's how much whoever in that day valued the Codex Ephraemis Rescriptus. Let's just write over it. Meanwhile, you can't hardly, get your hands on a majority text manuscript as old as what they're calling the Codex Sinaiticus. They are there. They're just hard to find. And you know what? They're not being washed over. They're not being washed over. They're there. But also, a lot of them are worn out because they were used. They weren't discarded and repurposed for some other book. It's almost like one of these families of manuscripts was held as the Bible, and others like the Codex Vaticanus and Codex Ephraemis Rescriptus and whatever else was not held to the same esteem, not held to the same degree. But Tischendorf, what a great discovery he has. It was his claim to fame, after all. The Codex Sinaiticus was what pushed him over into, literary textual fame. Let's read a little bit more here. A list of chapters is preserved before the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of John. So, once again, it's all been washed. You can't read it. So that maybe says this is the Gospel of Matthew or Gospel of Mark before the Gospel of Luke and John. The pericope adulterae was likely missing from the original codex. The two leaves, which contain John 7:3 through 8:34, are not extant, however, by counting the lines and calculating how much space would be required to include. It can be demonstrated that they did not contain sufficient space for the passage. The text of Mark 16:9-20 is included on folio 148R. I don't know what they mean by folio 148R there. But so it doesn't have the woman caught in adultery, which aligns with the critical text. So it's a chopped up, some things can included, some things not. Let's put a lot of emphasis on this and let this be a basis for overturning the mark and number of the beast. Let's do that. Here is all the missing chapters and verses from in the Wikipedia page from the Codex Ephraemis Rescriptus. Gospel of Matthew, look at all this. Gospel of Mark. Gospel of Luke. Gospel of John. Acts of the Apostles. Look at all these things that are missing. Epistle to the Romans. Corinthians. Galatians. Ephesians. Completely missing the second epistle of John. Book of Revelation. Missing the second coming in Revelation 19. And then the Old Testament's got parts of Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, Wisdom. None of the others, though, none of the other books of the Old Testament. Anyways, my point in saying all this is, why do we treat these incomplete codexes with such heavy authority that have been bleached and written over, right? Yeah, Jay says, what are we looking at here? The oldest and most reliable codex? Yeah. This is why I'm kind of leading into my Wesley Huff discussion here. He does have some knowledge about textual criticism, and he would know more codexes than I. He knows the names, he probably knows what's in them, he knows what's not. They don't say the same thing. They're missing all sorts of passages and verses. And when you start lumping in all of these textual variants into the pot, here's what they do. And this is what very much frustrates me about textual criticism. When it comes to the received text, the majority text, they're almost the same. They use it to defend the Bible to some degree. We have all of these thousands of copies of manuscripts. But then, when they go to actually compile what the text says, what the Bible is, they let this small handful of rewritten, bleached, missing texts, manuscripts, to call into question the thousands that are of Byzantine majority text origin. I just don't like that approach. And they'll have all sorts of rules and justification. Well, these are older. Here's our logic. The authors added those other things in. Those were put in later. Even though most error, if you were to look at actual scribal work in practice, what's more likely? Mistake by addition or mistake by omission? That's a legitimate thing. If a student is writing a report from a book, are they more likely to make a mistake of omission or a mistake of addition? It's going to be omission every time. So his appeal here in this interesting discussion, well, you know, the mark of the beast may not be 6 600, 6 which that's the King James language they wouldn't use, but they bring in this Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus. I mean, okay, it's old, maybe. Question Tischendorf every step of the way, but it's old. So that makes it automatically superior, even though it's missing so many little fragments and verses. Probably has some other words changed in there, things omitted, things altered. Still, Huff emphasized that the discrepancy is not cause for alarm. How important is this? Well, to be honest, not very, he wrote, adding that the early church figures like Irenaeus, writing in the 2nd century, were aware of the variant, but affirmed 666 as the more accurate reading based on the earliest, most reliable copies available to them. See, and that's the thing. When you read a lot of the early church figures, not fathers, I like the word figure there, they do oftentimes write, and it does largely support the majority text. They do it. It's really not until Erasmus and the Vulgate that you do have, the more critical text aligning manuscripts that you'll see copying from Origen. In the ancient world, numbers often carried symbolic meaning, Huff explained. Maybe, but also it carried real meaning, real values. Many ancient languages, including Hebrew and Greek, use letters as numerals. By that logic, the name Nero Caesar, translated into Hebrew, adds up to 666. There we go. See, there it is. We're able to make this connection. Nero Caesar, using the Hebrew letters as numerals, you can add it to 666, 600, 6. So therefore, Nero is the Antichrist. Removing the final N from Neron yields 616. Now, still, Huff cautioned against putting too much weight on numerology. I think that was wise. Smart decision not to put too much weight on that. I'm going to have to look into that Nero Caesar. So, what happens if you do Caesar Nero? what number do you get then if you do Caesar Nero instead of Nero Caesar? How would that work? This, to me, is a lot like what people do today. To go in the past and take Nero and then try to connect it to the mark of the beast. Well, Hebrew numerology and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of the same as us today speculating about current events and saying, oh, well, this is clearly prophecy. I mean, this is stuff concerning the last days, the end times. Because if you put this name right here and then look at the word that it makes inside, right? Pride Month is demon or whatever. You can go on and on in that. The text researcher said, called into question whether the number of the beast referred to in Revelation 13:18 is actually 616 or 665, rather than the widely understood 666. And that's due to some other variances and what have you. And this is like I said, the heart of the matter to me. We've got to figure out what the Bible is. That's my biggest point. When you're discussing textual criticism, at some point we've got to decide what the Bible is. Because if we're going to say, well, it could be this number, but it could be another number, do we even have a Bible? That's my question. You need to decide. Each person needs to determine what they think is the authoritative Word of God. They have to. And Wesley Huff, he's still young, and I know I'm young, but he still dabbles in the realm of, I don't know, we're not sure, right? It's probably this, but here's this other manuscript. I'm all for being more concise, right? Make up your mind, say what it is. Don't, if you feel for some reason that you need to have old manuscripts to defend the Bible, go somewhere other than the Codex Ephraemus Rescriptus. Don't play the game of having your cake and eat it too. If it's a questionable text with all sorts of verses and words omitted and missing, and it's been bleached or washed and rewritten, go somewhere else. Or if you're convinced that it is accurate, reference the Codex Ephraemus Rescriptus, reference the Codex Sinaiticus, reference the Codex Vaticanus, and then quit using our received text to legitimize your Bible. Because we've got thousands and you've got a handful. We've got thousands, you've got a handful. Quit mashing them up together. I don't think they belong to be put into the same camp for support. Either argue that you have dozens, maybe hundreds if you start really stretching it, but don't use the received text, because we don't use yours. We don't reference the Codex Ephraemus Rescriptus, because to me it sounds like a weak argument. Oh yes, a codex so important it was washed of its writing and reused for other purposes. And then it was deciphered later by Tischendorf. I mean, do we have any pictures of the codex? We do have some supposed pictures of the Codex Sinaiticus, supposed. Question the assumptions there. I mean, do we even have an actual picture of the codex? Here's archive.org. Nope. This isn't it. Let me see if I can. These are all capital letters here with different. I mean, but this is pretty clearly not a actual picture because it's not written. This is all typed out. So this is all this is Tischendorf's writing on the codex. Yeah, so this is not like, this isn't even an actual picture of it. This is just Tischendorf's. Tischendorf's notes on it, I guess. Made to look old, I guess. Anyways, so that's my thoughts right now on the Wesley Huff stuff. Just not impressed with it on that aspect. I mean, I think that hopefully he continues to study and he becomes a supporter of the majority text, the Byzantine text, and he would stop dabbling in these texts, these codexes that have strange backstories and have a lot of missing and variance within them. Michaela says, I don't believe God would want us to lean on something that is not ready available to us, but held behind doors. Might as well speak Latin and expect us to understand understand the sermon. Yeah. I mean, why can't we see it, right? Like, where is the picture of the Codex Ephraemus Rescriptus? Do I have to buy a book to get access to it? If you're really confident, just let everybody look at it. I don't know. Let everybody see it. There's no need to gatekeep it, I don't think. All right, let's go ahead and talk. Let me give a little bit of acknowledgement and lip service to one good thing about the SBC. Don't run me out. I'm not telling you their doctrine's good. I'm not telling you that their conventional format's good. I'm no fan of NAM, not Vietnam, but the National North American Mission Board. But this is a good thing. The Oklahoma Disaster Relief Volunteers respond to Texas flooding. Let me give credit where credit's due. The Oklahoma Baptist Disaster Relief is primarily made up of older gentlemen who are retired, because let's face it, older gentlemen who are retired are the ones who have the opportunity, the time, the resources to leave and go work in these things. The Oklahoma Disaster Relief Team, as well as the other Baptist disaster relief groups in other states. Let me give good credit where credit's due. This organization is a good thing. These people, often it's men, but some of the women as well. They have chainsaws, they have food, they help clean up. That's what they do. They provide, blankets. They'll have some very basic, provisions that may be needed, and they go and help, whether it's tornadoes, whether it's flooding, fires, you name it, the disaster relief team does it. As a matter of fact, the man who preached my ordination at my first church, Brother Jason Yarborough, once again, he's a Southern Baptist pastor, but let me remind you, I know in right division, and I am just as bad as anybody, I can rant and rail about the SBC. There are people in the SBC, understand that they have a love for God and a love for people. Are they confused on doctrine? They sure are, okay? But I think sometimes it would do us well to not just bask in ire or frustration, but every now and then let yourself be reminded that there are some people who genuinely love God. Are they misguided in doctrine in a number of ways? Sure. But they do want to help people, and they make a lot of effort. They take time out of their day. That's their chainsaws they bring. That's a lot of times that's their food they bring. You name it. So Brother Jason Yarborough, he's now over the Oklahoma Baptist Disaster Relief, and so he says Texas Southern Baptist Disaster Relief volunteers have been on the ground serving meals to first responders and others in response to the devastating flood waters in central Texas. They've also been busy assessing damage and coordinating a full response to help those affected. He added Oklahoma Disaster Relief Mud Out flood recovery teams have been requested to come assist in the relief efforts. The first team will be leaving Tuesday, and we have teams building to go and serve over the next several weeks. We will begin helping in the community of San Saba and then be ready to move and help wherever we're needed. This is a good thing. A small percentage, not a lot, a small percentage of support to the SBC goes to the disaster relief. I would say I wish that it was easier to just give to those efforts, just straight to the disaster relief, because they're not focused on preaching. They're not focused on teaching. They're just focused on, you've got trees down, we'll chainsaw them up, we'll get them stacked. Y'all need food, we'll bring you food. It is a good thing that the disaster relief team does. So I just wanted to say that because sometimes I can be very critical for all the right reasons. At the same time, there are people out there who do have a good motivation, who are trying to do good works for the sake of just helping and serving other people, okay? So let me speak to the disaster relief team and their efforts there, especially in such a horrible situation, the things that they may go and see. So Jason, Mr. Gilbert, no, I don't know if any of you know Mr. Gilbert. He's an old friend of mine. When I was in high school, we used to sit out in front of his shop and talk about hunting and all sorts of different things. Thank y'all for all that y'all have done on the disaster relief team. I will fully acknowledge the good work you're doing there. And with that being said, I'm hoping eventually, when I'm able to topple the SBC, the one thing I will keep, and when I am appointed dictator of the churches, we're having a little bit of fun here, people. The disaster relief team, if I was made the supreme leader dictator of the SBC, I'm axing every single thing but the disaster relief. That's what I'm keeping. It's a good thing. The SBC will become nothing but a bunch of churches that they give cooperatively into one ministry only, and that's the disaster relief program. And there's a lot of ways that you could do such a thing, obviously, without actually being a cooperative program or anything. We could start an organization called Disaster Relief, Right Dividers, Disaster Relief, and y'all could give to that. But it is a good thing. So let me give a little bit of positivity on this Tuesday in a show full of negativity. All right, finally, let me share or pitch an idea to you to hear what you think. Just like today and other times, I can rant and rail against all sorts of theology. You know me, I have axes I've grind with Calvinists and all the like. Would you be interested in a stream series? It's probably just something to be like once a month, maybe. If it got popular, maybe we do it more. Where I do a sit-down discussion, and probably it'd be more so over the computer, but a sit-down discussion with people of different theologies. And it's not a debate, while we may joust a little, with just our different theories or doctrines. We do just get to have discussions, and you would see me, a right divider, engaging with a Presbyterian. You may see me, a right divider, engage with kind of more of a Arminian Molinist. There's a possibility there. Me, a right divider, jest with any number of people if we can track them down. I'll be willing to do it. Would you be interested in seeing more of a just sit-down discussion, conversation? Like I said, not let it be a full-on debate. I don't want it to turn into a debate and arguing, but I want it to just be, let's talk through it. Let's have discussion. Because the people I would have on, so far I've got 2, maybe 3, that I have a great deal of respect for. I really do. They are not right dividers. They do not agree with them. But you know what? They do study. They do strive to be independent thinkers. And I can on this show explain all of my grievances with Calvinism as a concept. At the same time, I can dissociate my grievances with Calvinism on that level, which I think Calvinism does make a monster of God in a number of ways. But I can also look at an individual man who does have a love for God, who has a love for people, wants to study, wants to stand for so many of the values that you and I genuinely do believe in. They want strong families. They want fathers raising children. They want conservative values presented, represented, supported in public society. That we have enough mutual agreement on some things that we get to fellowship in that while have discussions about these other things. So let me know. If so, give me a catchy name to call it. I don't know what to call it yet, but I was talking to a Presbyterian from Tennessee. He's a friend of mine, and we disagree on so much doctrine, a lot of the doctrine, actually. But at the same time, you know what? If I was in a foxhole, give me that man every single day of the week. Because not only is he a former Marine recon, so he's a fighter, he's a war fighter, and a good shooter, but he's a good man. Loves his family, has convictions about reading the Bible, wants to protect the doctrines of Christianity, Obviously, we have different thoughts on how to approach it, but let me know what your thoughts are on that, and if that's something you'd be interested in seeing. I'm getting some good feedback already. Paul likes the idea. Kristen likes it. My mom likes it. Robert says, why not? Might as well be kind of interesting. Something different, something unique. And so, once again, not debating, not arguing so much, but just genuine discussion, I think would be interesting. And I think the people that I know and that I would have on would be able to have the same mentality and the approach, that they could have composure, as well as I think I could have composure in engaging in that discussion. Vix Turtle says, I've yet to dabble in these different codexes, but I can't read these ancient languages. I don't think I want to. Yeah, and there is that barrier there. But you can get enough information to some degree. Where were they found? What were the stipulations? And Tischendorf is just, when you start reading about all of these late 1800s codexes, that guy has his finger in nearly all of them. I mean, he was... It just, the more you read about him, the more you think either this is a astounding coincidence or he's hoodwinking everybody. It's one of the two. And maybe it started out genuine, but then took a turn for the worse. I don't know. But anyways, I have really enjoyed it. I don't know why it seems like maybe my live stream on Worshipify stopped, but the YouTube stream is still going well. So I don't know why that stopped there. But thank you all who taking the time to watch, to tune in. Rick thinks it's a great idea, and if Rick's for it, I'm for it. Unless it's eating a burger with lettuce and not bread. But I know that you don't choose that life, Rick. You do it because you have to. All right, moving on. Everybody, thank you all so much for joining us here at Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. My name is Mark Baze. Thank you for supporting my ministry. You've made it possible to get a new camera. I'm working on getting that camera set up to where it will look good, hopefully like this. This looks all right, I think. And so with that, I represent truth, justice, and the American way, and I know you do as well. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you all so much. Take care.